educators as well. But what I do know is that what we will talk about here today, it will give you the ability to change that perspective, perhaps in the blink of an eye. I make you that promise right here, right now. This next part of our conversation will be the most difficult, educators, but I promise you that it's necessary. Because before we begin, I've got to get everyone's perspective as close as possible on this. I've been doing this a long time, educators, and I know exactly what's going to happen when I put that picture on the screen. There's going to be a rumble that rolls across the crowd. You kids will say things out loud. Somebody might even whisper. But I sit back and watch, and I watch heads turn and some friends whisper in their ears, and I promise you, educators, there's a handful of students in this room that knows exactly who that is. Because several years ago, maybe within the very shadows of this institution or the one next door, there were young people that watched Caitlin Nicole Davis from Cedartown, Georgia, end her own life when she live streamed it for the world to see. Now don't think this is too heavy, educators. She was 12 years old when she did the unthinkable. And people say to me all the time, students, they say, why? If your parents were here right now, it's the first thing they'd say. They say, my God, why? And the first thing I say to parents, and sometimes even to educators, I say, did you take the time to watch that show that came out on Netflix years ago, that 13 Reasons? Did you take the time to watch it, teach? A lot of teachers and parents, they say, I don't even agree with that show. I say, okay, maybe I don't either, but I watched it. I just wanted to have common language with the students I was talking to when it came out. So you can summarize that show into one word. It's the same reason, students, why 22 service members end their own lives every single day in this country. It's the same reason that Caitlin Nicole Davis, Olivia Scott, Amanda Todd, Ryan Halligan, Tina Meyer's daughter, it's the same word. She felt hopeless. She felt like she couldn't hold on to the possibilities that existed for her future, so she gave up. That's the why right there. That's why 22 service members do it every single day, because they feel hopeless. And then people say to me, in these conversations with parents and teachers, they say, okay, then what causes a young person to feel hopeless? If that's the why, what causes one? See, there's these common threads that weave between all of us. They connect every single person in this room. You can't escape it. It's truly what it means to be human. You probably never thought about it before. After food, shelter, and water, what do we all need? Two things. Number one, some kind of meaning, some kind of purpose, some kind of significance. It was the great philosopher Nietzsche that said, he who has a why to live can bear any how. Those are like some old fancy words, but here's what he's trying to tell us. If you have some kind of meaning in your life, some kind of reason, you can go through anything. There's a whole bunch of you in this room that know exactly what I'm talking about. Because some of y'all got single moms at home, and she can go through anything because she's got the greatest meaning in the world. You. That young lady on that screen felt like she had very little reason, very little meaning to be around. When anyone feels that way on the inside, it always leads to this feeling of hopelessness. Well, what's the other thing that we all need? It's human acceptance. Now, you know this if you're a good educator, right? There's nothing but a bunch of pack animals right here, right? Y'all sat in your little packs, right? I saw some of you from backstage snuggling up with each other, throwing your arms around your buddies. That's what good pack animals are supposed to do. For some of you in this room, your friends are becoming the most important people in your life. Maybe even more important than your own family. And you don't have to feel bad. It's supposed to be that way. But that young lady on that screen, she really felt like she had no one. And the other people in her school, in her community, she felt like they tried to ruin her life. When you take this absence of meaning, which our kids are struggling more with than ever before in history, educators, and they don't feel accepted, it always leads someone to this feeling of hopelessness. And that's why they asked me to come here today and talk to you about this thing called bullying. Now, when I say this word bully, when your teacher says it, when your parents say it, for most of you in this room, something like this might flash through your mind. You might think about a big guy chasing a little guy home from school, shoving him up against the locker, stealing their lunch money. What I found is that most young people don't truly know what this thing called bullying really is. I found a lot of educators don't know what it is. So my job, my responsibility, before we start with this solution, is to get everyone in here on the same page, to share a perspective on this thing called bullying, because you can't defeat anything, students, that you don't understand. No better place to start than in the world of education. So let's go back to that dictionary. Let's open up to the word bully, and when you do, here's what you see. It's a blessing across an overbearing person of bitch and intention, bad, small, weak people. You got it? 4 things in this definition, and you got to know them all. If we're going to share a perspective on this thing called bullying, you have to understand these 4 things. Number 1, in order for something to be bullying from this definition, it has to be habitual, which just means it happens over and over again. We like to say that the mean switch gets turned on in about the 5th grade. Then every day, every week, every month, year after year, young men, young women are programmed to believe the things that are said about them because it happens over and over and over again. This one right here is why a lot of y'all don't understand this thing called bullying. Someone did something to you once, twice, 3 times. It didn't feel real good, but it hasn't become half a lifetime. There's a whole bunch of students in this room that know exactly what I'm talking about because for years they've been treated a certain way. It's habitual. Now what happens habitually? This thing called intimidation. And do you know what intimidation means? It's a yes or no question. Okay, I was about to show you. Now, I'm only going to say this one time in case some of y'all don't know what this word means. I'm going to say it one time. I'm not going to repeat myself. All intimidation means is that you're being mean or scary. That'll make a good little jump scare in the morning. All it means is that you're being mean or scary. Educators, understand this. 170,000 students skip school every day in North America because they're afraid. It's not 2 kids not getting along, 1 student even getting upset. This right here is truly the signature of bullying. It's fear, it's intimidation. And this one right here is why most of y'all don't truly understand this thing called bullying. If I walk up to most of y'all and I'm like, bro, you afraid to be in school? You'd be like, I'm afraid to be in school. I say, that's right, you don't get it. You have no idea, most of you in this room, what it's like to just think about being in school and to be in terror. There's a handful of young people in this room that know exactly what I'm talking about because for years they've been afraid to go to school for one reason, because how they're treated by other people. Habitually intimidating. Here's the big one right here. People that, listen to what word I'm going to use here, educators, people that feel smaller or weaker. Now, y'all are old enough to know I'm not talking about how tall someone is, how big their muscles are. I'm talking about the fact that your father is in prison. I'm talking about the fact that your mom had a drug or alcohol issue that people found out about. I'm talking about the fact that you're brand new to this school. Your hair is different, your skin is different, you're from a different country. This one right here is where my perspective changed in the blink of an eye. I remember when it happened, students. I went to the state of Kentucky probably 8, 9 years ago now. I was all done doing a presentation. I had an audience of over 1,000 students. I was all done presenting. I went backstage to have my stuff in a little room. I put my stuff away, and when I turned around, in the doorway was a woman just standing there looking at me. A teacher, a mother. And as I looked back at her students, the tears just ran right down her face. And she said, Tom, I had to take my daughter out of the high school because she's so pretty. You hear that, educators, even at this age? And that's exactly what happened to me on the inside. I'm actually a little bit embarrassed to even tell people about this, because on the inside I was like, darn her luck. And what I wanted to say to this lady was, you know what? Let me tell you about some kids that have some real challenges. I'm sorry your daughter's so pretty. I didn't say that. I'm embarrassed to even tell y'all about that. But then I took the time to watch that show. A couple years later, that 13 Reasons. And in the blink of an eye, the rest of her sentence came back to me. She said, I had to take my daughter out of the high school. She's so pretty. The other girls are ruining her life because of all the attention that she gets. See, I never thought about it like that. That's a tough thing for a young lady. when she's just trying to figure out who she is and someone gives her that label in middle school and she's got to wear it all the way through high school. See, gentlemen, you'll never know what it feels like to be that girl. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? But that's a tough thing for a young lady, gentlemen, when she's just trying to figure out who she is, and every day she's got to come to school and people give her that label. That's a tough, tough thing. I'm going to tell you what this means, what I've learned after all these years, students and teachers. This thing, smaller, weaker, it means anything. Because that's how they feel on the inside. What I found after all these years, educators, is that anything can make an individual feel smaller or weaker on the inside. We got to take time to have great conversations with these young people so that they understand that anything can make someone feel smaller or weaker on the inside. Habitually intimidating, people that feel smaller or weaker on the inside, and last but not least, educators, this one's mostly for you. This thing called bullying happens on purpose. It's an intentional act, this thing called bullying. Now, are you teaching? Oh, I couldn't tell, you just look kind of young, you know? Anyway, now do you know why young people do everything that they do? I'm going to tell you. Why this guy's talking while I'm trying to talk. It doesn't bother me, by the way, bro. But like why kids just talk out loud, or this guy's massaging his buddy's head, that's weird. Like, you know why, educators, you know why young people do everything that they do? Just to blow your mind. You ready? Now they should have taught this years ago at teacher school. You ready? That's going to blow your mind. Why young people do everything they do. You ready? Because they feel like it. That's it. There's no magic to this one, educators. That's the part of the brain that's fully functional. These young people operate on their feelings. He's talking to her right now. You know why? Because he feels like it. They talk out loud because they feel like it. They rub their buddy's head because they feel like it. But what that also means, educators, and I know most of you know this in this room, but that also means that a lot of these young people have very difficult things going on at home. With their parents, their grandparents, their friends, sometimes even their pets. And sometimes educators, they do come to school, and sometimes they do mean and hurtful things to each other. It doesn't mean they bullied a single person. It means they operate on their feelings like they are supposed to. Those are called opportunities to help these young people learn and to grow through those feelings. But not bullying, students. Bullying happens on purpose. Habitually intimidating people that feel smaller or weaker on the inside, and it happens on purpose. I told you this one was a little bit long, a little bit boring. I'm going to land my plane on this perspective piece by asking you one question. How often, students, do bullies get away with their behavior? How often? I heard somebody say it. I didn't see it, though. You can just say it out loud. How often? There you go. I heard some. Did you say that? Who said all the time? Yeah. Are these your friends next to you? Hey, what's your name? Lily? Is Lily a little bit, all right, well, just, now, I'm not picking on you, Lily. Just follow me here. Now, just follow me. I'm going to use some basic logic. Now, Lily, I see posters in hallways that say no bully zone. If I go find your principal and I say, do you have a zero tolerance climate here, which means they tolerate 0 instances of bullying, they'll say yes. New York State's made against the law to bully. So, posters on the wall, 0 tolerance, against the law. So for you to say all the time, that sounds cuckoo logically. You feel me? This is fascinating to me, educators. You know, if I started handing out blank sheets of paper to all these students, and I said to them, hey, could you write down the name of one student that gets treated the wrong way in the school, in your community, that gets teased, picked on, made fun of, could you write down one name? And if you flipped it over, could you write down the name of a student that might even be a bully? Of course they could. And that's why, just like my friend Lily said here, in the best schools in this country, 96 to 97% of the time, that behavior's gotten away with. But here's the craziest thing, educators. Every student in this room could tell you where it happens, when it happens, why it happens, and who it happens to, and it's gotten away with. That should blow your minds, educators. 85% of all bullying students, and I promise I'm going to land on this piece right here. 85% of all bullying, negative behavior, happens in front of other people. And that's the reason I'm here. I did not come here for kids that get bullied. I know that sounds kind of weird. I did not come here for kids that are bullies. I truly, honestly, came here for the rest of you. Because you're the solution. You're the key to solving this forever, not just in the school, but in your community and in the world today. The rest of you. And I'll prove it to you. There's some perspective for you. Maybe now we've got this entire group of young people and educators on a different page. So the next time you hear this thing called bullying, you'll think about it just a little bit differently. Let's get started with that solution. And truly, the war that we're in, educators, it's not a war against gender, against poverty, against race. It's not a war against any of those things. I know we got issues with all of those things in this country. But the true war that we're in is a war against hopelessness. You realize that suicides educators and 10 to 14-year-olds, that's some of the young people in this room, since 2007 have tripled. Do you realize post-pandemic educators that 30% of the young women across this nation, 30%, that means the young women in this room, 30% of them have seriously considered ending their own lives. That's the war that we're in, educators. And if that's the war that we're in, our solution has to begin with this thing called hope. Now, let me tell you what hope stands for, students, educators. It stands for hold on, possibilities exist. H-O-P-E. We have a generation of young people that feel like they're on fire on the inside. They don't feel like they can hold on. They don't feel like there's possibilities that exist for their future, so they're willing to give up. I've been around this country, students, and I meet people every single day that feel this way on the inside. The first time it ever hit me, probably 8, 9 years ago. I was up near Rochester, New York, a little town called Batavia. I was putting my stuff in that very bag right there. It was up on a stage. I had my back turned. I was putting my stuff away, and she snuck up on me. 650 students had just left the auditorium. Probably about this side. My back was turned. I was putting my stuff away. She tapped me on the shoulder. I spun around there. She wasn't in front of me. An 8th, 9th grade young lady, as old as some of you. And the first words out of her mouth, she said, "My grandma died in 2006. I said the dumbest thing I ever said to a young lady. I got eye level with her, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My grandma died last year too. I know exactly how you feel." I know, my dummy light went off as soon as I said that. I was checking myself even back then. She's an 8th, 9th grade young lady. I will never know how she feels. I was going to apologize, but before I could say anything, she said, "My mom died unexpectedly in 2008. I kind of clenched my teeth behind my lips. Right? You hear unexpectedly from anybody, especially an 8th, 9th grader, you should pay attention. I didn't ask why, I didn't ask how. I found out a year later her mom was only 30. I just stared her in the face. I didn't know what to do back then. And then she says to me, they deported my father back to Portugal. He's never allowed back in this country again. And now my eyes flash to these auditorium doors because, like I just said, I didn't know what to do. In the inside, I was like praying some teacher was going to come rescue me. But she wasn't done. She tears out one more arrow and she lines it up with my heart. She said, in 2011, my 15-year-old brother Logan was murdered. Shot to death in a trailer with another kid. Then the guy turned the gun himself. And the last thing Alana said to me that day, she said, "I can't wait to die so my whole family could be together." And then she goes to school. People make fun of her weight. People make fun of her clothes. They make fun of what happened to her brother. They say, "You should kill yourself." I mean, that's what y'all hear these days online, places like that. What reason does she have to hold on? What possibilities exist in her 8th, 9th grade little mind? Not too many. See, I don't understand hopelessness at that level, students, educators, and I never want to. But I know someone that does. I know someone that understands hopelessness on another level.
I heard the boom, and as soon as I heard the boom, I was on fire. There's no time to react other than, the hatch above me was open. Thank God, because if it wasn't, I would have never found the lever to get out.
Keep your head up, keep your back straight. Good to go.
Students, educators, shall please welcome one of the world's hope experts, Mr. Richard.
Tom's gonna get those lights. All right, well, good morning, everybody. How are you all doing? Good, all right. So as Tom said, my name is Rick, and I get to talk to you today about my favorite button. That is button number 2, and hope. And some of the times in my life where I have lost hope. Some of the times in my life where I've gotten that hope back. And that's some of the most difficult times in my life where I have felt absolutely hopeless. And really, my story of hope and hopelessness begins on September 1st, 2006, when I was a soldier in the United States Army, and I was in the country of Iraq. And I was on a patrol on a road I had been on many times before in a vehicle called a Bradley. And for those of you that don't know what a Bradley is, now you do. That is a Bradley right there. It's basically a small tank. Well, that day that I was on that patrol, it was a little different than every other day because this day somebody had buried an IED underneath the road. IED stands for Improvised Explosive Device. It's basically a homemade bomb. My Bradley ran over that bomb. The bomb exploded. It went through the bottom of my vehicle up into the turret where I was sitting. But also in the turret where I was sitting is where we have our fuel tank. And it hit the fuel tank. That is an actual picture of my Bradley after it had burned for many, many hours. And you can see from the picture before where that guy is standing on top of the vehicle, that's the turret. That's the part of the vehicle that I was in. And you can see in the next picture, there is no turret. It basically melted into the Bradley. So as soon as the vehicle was on fire, so was I. And I knew the first thing that I had to do, if I had any chance to survive, I couldn't think about anything else. The only thing I could think about was getting out of the vehicle. I had to get out of the vehicle. Now every day when I climbed into the Bradley, I would climb up to the very top of the turret. I would reach down, I would pull open a hatch cover. Once that cover was open, I would climb down inside. And once I was inside, I would reach up and I would pull the hatch cover closed. We were supposed to keep our hatches closed whenever we went out on a mission. And the reason being, if if we ever got hit with chemicals and all of the hatches were closed, chemicals couldn't get into the vehicle. That's why we closed them every day. But that day that I climbed inside, I did not close that hatch cover behind me. Thank God. Because if I had, there's no way, with the chaos of that moment, with all that smoke and all that fire, there's no way I would have found the little lever above my head that I would have had to hit to unlock that cover. Which means I wouldn't have gotten out of the vehicle. Which obviously also means I wouldn't be here with you today. So thankfully I did leave it open. I was able to climb to the top. Once I got to the top, the next thing I knew I had to do was I had to get off of the vehicle. But there was two big problems with that. The first problem was the fact that it's a long ways down. So from the top of the turret to the ground is actually 10 feet. Now 10 feet is really easy to imagine because that's the same height as the rim on a basketball. So if you can imagine yourself standing on the rim of a basketball hoop and looking down, let's just say you're 6 feet tall, you're looking 16 feet to the ground. It's a long ways down. It's a big problem. But that definitely wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem was the fact that I couldn't see anything. And I couldn't see anything because my face was on fire. And the fire was covering my eyes. But I knew I had to jump. I knew I had to take a leap of faith. It didn't matter that I was blind in that moment. I had to jump. So I did. I did jump off of that vehicle. I did take that leap of faith. And I did make it to the ground. But when I landed on the ground, I couldn't brace myself for the impact of the landing because I couldn't see the ground. So when I landed, I broke my leg. And that's how I ended up with this wicked, awesome robot leg. Check it out. You can get one if you want. You can get one if you want. They sell them on Amazon. Yeah, it's really weird that they sell prosthetic legs on Amazon. Like, because when somebody needs a prosthetic leg, it's made for that one specific person. So, like, if somebody goes to sell one on Amazon, it's really strange because even if somebody needs a prosthetic, they can't just go on Amazon, buy one, and be like, wow, it's a perfect fit. That's not how it works. So it's really weird that they sell prosthetic legs on Amazon. But you know what else is really weird? That I was looking on Amazon for a prosthetic leg. And guess what? We're not talking about it right now. That's what's up. All right, so now I am out of the vehicle. I'm off of the vehicle. What do I have to do next? I got to put the fire out. Stop, drop, and roll. That's what we were taught to do if we ever caught on fire, and that's what I did. I rolled around the ground. I tried to put the fire out. And guess what? It doesn't work. They taught us stop, drop, and roll. That's the one thing they taught us. If you ever catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll. And it didn't work for me. Now, I'm sure it works if your shirt is on fire or something like that. But my entire body was engulfed in flames. It was covered in fuel. I couldn't put the fire out. And that is when I did something that I regret. Honestly, it is the biggest regret of my entire life. Because that's when I laid on my back, and I just stared up into the sky, and I gave up. I accepted that I would die in that moment. I didn't know what else to do. My leg was broken. I couldn't stand up and run. Even if I could, where was I going to go? I couldn't see anything because my face was on fire. I gave up. Biggest regret of my entire life. Now, we all deal with difficult things in our life, and I would say that some of those difficult things that we deal with, they can lead to being hopeless. Not having that hope, because that's what I lost that day. I lost that hope. And Tom said what it stood for, hold on. Possibilities exist. But in that moment of hopelessness for me, I wasn't holding on for any possibilities that existed. Truly, I didn't know what the possibilities were. A lot of times we don't know what they are. Like, would I play football again someday? Would I wrestle again someday? Would I be a doctor someday? Would I be presenting to students someday? I had no clue what the possibilities were. Well, in the moment, it didn't matter what they were because I was giving up on every single one of them. Like I said, we all deal with difficult things in our life. And sometimes they lead to a lack of hope or maybe even hopelessness. And I'm not only talking about life and death situations. Like certainly that day in Iraq, for me, it was life and death. I'm talking about things maybe even that you love doing. Something that you've committed yourself to. You've been doing for a really long time. And then all of a sudden that thing that you love doing has become really difficult. And you say to yourself, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard. You give up on that thing. You lose hope in that situation. Well, if you give up on that thing, you will never see the results that come from getting through it. You will never get to experience the reward that comes from getting through that difficult thing. And I can promise you something right now. The more difficult something is to get through, It just means that there's a bigger reward when you get through it. But we have to hold on to find out what that reward is. We got to hold on to find out the possibilities that exist for our future. Now, thankfully for me that day in Iraq, I only gave them hope for a second because I ended up rolling in one direction. I had no idea which direction I was rolling in. It could have been right back to that burning Bradley. But thankfully it was not. I was actually rolling away from it. And I ended up rolling down a little hill and into a canal that was there. A canal that I had no idea was there, but it had just enough water in it to put the fire out. It saved my life. Now, a couple of my buddies, they found me in that canal. One of them came down, he grabbed my legs. Another one came down, he grabbed underneath my arms. And then they carried me up to the top of the canal where the helicopters would eventually pick us up. But when I got to the top of the canal, that's when everything started to sink in. Like, that's when I could see how bad things really were. The fire was out on me, I could see it again. I could see how bad my hands were burning. And the reason I could see how bad my hands were burnt is because my palms, they were hanging from my fingertips. It was bad. I could also see how bad my face was burnt. It's not because somebody had a mirror to show me. It's because my face was hanging from my chin. I knew that my injuries were bad enough that I might not live. But if I did live, my life was going to be different. Like, everything was about to change for me. Now, one of my buddies who had pulled me out of that canal, he was standing over top of me and he was helping me deal with the situation. Because when we deal with really difficult things in our life, we need help. And we need to accept the help that people are offering us. Sometimes that's really hard for us to do because you're admitting to everyone you can't do it on your own. Who cares? If you can't do it on your own and you don't accept the help that people are offering, that thing will never get done. So thankfully I had my friend there that day for me. I didn't have to ask him for help because he was already there. But I did ask him a silly question. I said, how bad is it? Now that's a silly question because I told you I knew how bad it was. I saw my hands, I saw my face. It was bad. But as a good friend would do in that kind of situation is lie. And he lied to me. I mean, the truth was, Rick, it's really bad, you might not live, but that's not what I needed to hear. So he said what I needed to hear, and that was, Rick, it's not that bad. But after he said that to me, I looked back at him and I said, well, at least I'll never be as ugly as you are. Yep. Do you think I actually said that, though? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. You know why I said that? Because he's a good friend of mine. And I know my friends, and I know the line that I don't cross. And I actually know situations where I can help them. I knew what I was saying wasn't going to hurt him. I knew it would help him. Because remember, the truth of that moment was, Rick, it's really bad, you might not live. But when he heard that my sense of humor was still there, he knew I was the funny guy. And when he heard that I was still the funny guy, maybe it gave him some of that hope. The hope, and maybe it was just the hope that, you know what, maybe Rick's going to be okay. Maybe he's going to make it through this after all. And then eventually the helicopters came and took me and my two buddies who were in the vehicle with me that day away to the hospital. But unfortunately, that helicopter ride, that was the last time that I ever saw or talked to my good buddy, Sergeant Luis Montez. Sergeant Montez, he was a soldier who was sitting directly next to me inside of the turret of the Bradley. And he ended up passing away 7 days later from the injuries he received that day that we were injured together. So September 7, 2006, Sergeant Montez lost his life. Now, Sergeant Montez, he actually passed away in a hospital in San Antonio, Texas. And that was the same hospital that I spent the next 6 months in. The next half of a year I spent in that hospital recovering. And I can tell you right now that there were times in that hospital that I felt just as hopeless as I did that day in Iraq. Like the first time I saw my face. When I saw what I looked like, and I thought to myself, if I ever get out of this hospital, I'm going to have to go out in public looking like nothing I have ever seen before in my entire life. How do I do that? And I'll tell you right now, I felt hopeless. But thankfully, when I was in that hospital, I was surrounded by amazing people. I was surrounded by amazing people who were giving me that hope when I was lacking it, like my doctors and my nurses, my physical therapist, my occupational therapist, my chaplain, people I'd never met before. They were coming into my room and they were helping me, my mom and my dad. These people were giving me that hope that I needed when I needed it the most. They're amazing people, these carriers of hope. But really, who are they? Truly, who are the carriers of hope? Well, that will actually take us to our third bucket. But number 3 is sweethearts. Sweethearts are the carriers of hope. They're the people in our lives who give us hope when we absolutely need it the most. I can tell you right now that I would not be in this auditorium with you today if it wasn't for the hope that I've been given by the sweethearts that have entered my life. They're amazing people. Now, sweethearts is obviously a very endearing term. It's really something nice to call somebody. But so is buddy and pal and friend. So why do we choose sweethearts as the carriers of hope? Well, to explain that to you, I actually have to take you back. I got to take you way back to the 16th century. The 16th century, when there was a word that was invented. And the word that was invented in the 16th century, the word that I'm referring to anyways, was the word bully. You know the word bully. It's the same bully that Tom was telling you about earlier. Somebody who intentionally intimidates somebody who is seen as smaller or weaker than them, and they do it over and over again. So that word bully was invented in the 16th century. But when it was invented, it actually did not mean that at all. It meant almost the exact opposite. The word bully in the 16th century actually meant sweetheart. Yeah, let that sink in for a second, because that doesn't make any sense at all. But the word bully in the 16th century actually meant sweetheart. I told you the word sweetheart is a very endearing term. Well, in the 16th century, so was the word bully. Because a bully in the 16th century was somebody who pushed you over and over and over again until you were uncomfortable sometimes. Wait a minute, that sounds like the bully of today. Somebody who pushes you over and over and over again until you're uncomfortable. But in the 16th century, they pushed you over and over and over again to make you better. Because they knew what you were capable of and they saw your potential. And sometimes you know it, we have to be pushed so we can see that same potential. Now, I didn't think of it this way when I was your age, but those people that I'm talking about, I mean, those are your teachers. Those are your coaches. Those are your parents, and there's some of your friends, and people who are pushing you to make you better. And sometimes it makes you uncomfortable. I think about it like this in my recovery. Like when I was in that hospital, and I was in a ton of pain. And there were days that I didn't want to get out of bed and do the things that I was supposed to do to get better because of that pain. And my physical therapist, they would have to come into my room, and they would have to say, Rick, come on, man, get up. I know you're dealing with a lot. I know you're in a ton of pain, but you got to get out of that bed. Let's go. And they would push me. They would bully me over and over and over again to make me better. These people that I'm talking about, those people that I'm talking about, I didn't like them on those days. I didn't like them at all. But today I love them because I know what they did for me. And I know that I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today without them. These are 16th century bullies. And educators, if you get an opportunity later today, later this week, talk to your students about who your 16th century bullies are. Who are your sweethearts? Like, who are the people in your life that pushed you over and over and over again? Who are those people that gave you hope? Who are the people that helped you get to be where you are today in your life? We all have them. Tell your students who those people are in your life. It's extremely important. I told you I needed a lot of those people when I was in the hospital. And then I got out of the hospital. People are like, oh, Rick's doing better. He's doing awesome. Yeah, I was out of the hospital, but I wasn't doing any better. Physically, sure, I was doing a little better. Mentally, I was a mess because here I go. I got to go out in public. And I got to face the world without a face, looking like nothing I had ever seen before. Now I got to go out in public. When I went out in public, every single person that I saw was surprised by what they saw. It was obvious. Every single person was staring at me, which honestly, I can deal with people staring. I understand why people stare. I'm guilty of it as well. I mean, it's looking longer than we should. That's really what staring is. And a lot of times we do that because we're seeing something new, and our brain is just trying to figure out what we're seeing or why we're seeing it. We have to be careful about it, for sure. But that's why we do it. So that's not why I felt hopeless when I left the hospital. That's not what I was really struggling with. What I was struggling with was the fact that little kids, 5, 6 years old, they weren't just staring at me. Like, it was very obvious to me that they were also terrified of me. I say it was obvious because as soon as they saw me, they would hide behind their parents' legs, they would run away. It got to the point where I was asking myself, like, why do I even go out in public anymore? Just stay home. It's safer at home. You don't want to scare children, but when you go out in public, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just going out in public. Just stay home. I mean, that's pretty hopeless when you don't want to leave your own home because you're afraid you're going to make other people afraid. I needed help at that time in my life. Honestly, I needed hope at that time in my life. So one day I actually went to a restaurant with my brother. I was in my wheelchair at the time. I wheel up to a table, and there was a table across from me that was empty. And I was so glad that table was empty. That way there's nobody sitting there that can stare at me. And that wasn't for me. That was for whoever might be at that table. Like if they have kids, their meal is ruined because that whole meal is going to be spent telling their kid to sit down, turn around, stop staring. I didn't want to ruin somebody's night out, so I was thankful it was empty. But it wasn't empty for long because the family did sit down at the table. And in that family, there was a little girl about 5 or 6 years old. And of course, she sits on the side of the table where she's facing me. So she's obviously staring at me. I mean, the whole restaurant's staring at me. Everybody's trying to figure out what happened to that guy. I can deal with that. But I could also tell that that little girl was afraid of me. I could see it in her eyes. Now, she was sitting right next to her grandfather, and her grandfather saw the same exact thing that I did. He saw that she was staring. He saw that she was afraid. But he did something I didn't expect. He actually leaned down close to her, and he quietly said to her, "Go say hi to me." He wanted his granddaughter to come over and say hello to me. He was putting her in a very uncomfortable situation. Well, she didn't come over. I didn't expect her to. I didn't want her to. I know how this goes if she does. So she didn't come over. But the grandfather, he didn't give up. He said it again. Go say hi to her. This time the little girl did start to come over to me. Now again, I did not want her coming all the way over to my table. I knew how uncomfortable she was already. I didn't want to make it worse for her. So when she got halfway over to my table, as nicely as I could say to her, I said, "Hey, how you doing?" But as soon as I said that first word, she stopped dead in her tracks. And honestly, it was like she saw a monster. I mean, that's what the way kids saw me, as a monster. She saw me as a monster, and she turned around. She ran back to her grandpa as fast as she could. And at that time, she's like, "You know what, Rick? Get used to it. Deal with it. Figure it out. I mean, this is going to be your life the rest of your life. You're going to look different forever, so kids will always be afraid of you. You just have to deal with it." How the heck do you deal with 24% of the population seeing you as a monster? I didn't know. I didn't know how to deal with a lot of things that early on in my recovery. It was new to me. Again, I needed hope. I needed somebody to give it to me. That little girl, she ran away from me, and she got back to her grandpa. She looked at him, and she said, "Grandpa, he's really nice. He's really nice." That is not what I thought she was going to say. And that is not what you all thought she was going to say either. I mean, if we thought she would say anything at all, we think she'd get back to her grandpa and she would say, "Grandpa, he's really scary." And that's not what happened. In that moment of hopelessness for me, that little girl, who again was only 5 or 6 years old, she came over to me, she dumped a bucket of hope on me, and when she did that, she changed my life forever. That is a fact. That is a guarantee. I don't think I'm talking to you in this room right now if it wasn't for that little girl, the hope she gave me, the sweetheart she became in my life. Crazy thing about it is that little girl had no clue what she was capable of. She had no clue she carried hope that she could give to people. She didn't know she could change people's lives forever. And honestly, either did I. I had no clue what she could do for me, but she gave me hope. And when she did is when I realized the hope she gave me, it's the same exact hope that every single one of us in this room right now carries with us every day of our lives. Every single day of our lives, we carry the same exact hope that the 5-year-old little girl gave me to change my life forever. And you can give it to other people, the hope you carry, to change their life forever. And if changing somebody's life isn't a big enough reward for you, I promise you there's a bigger one. The hope you carry, it saves lives as well. And I only know that because I'm living proof of it. I know I can't make you give hope to other people. I can only tell you what you're capable of. I can tell you what you carry inside of you. You all have to make a choice. You have to choose to give that hope to others. You have to choose to become a sweetheart. You have to choose to change and save lives. When you make these choices, you will change somebody's world as well. And please remember, if you are struggling, if you are dealing with some really difficult things, talk to somebody. Do not keep it in talk to somebody about what you're dealing with, and always remember what HOPE stands for. HOPE. Hold on, possibilities exist. Thank you all for being an absolutely amazing audience this morning for me. Thank you.
You know, I used to look at that man right there, students, educators, as an American hero for what he did for our country, but I'll be honest with all of you in this room, I never look at Rick as an American hero for that anymore. I look at that man as an American hero because he's given more hope to more students than anyone else I've ever met. There's young people all over the country that look at that man and say, that's how I feel on the inside, like I'm on fire, socially, psychologically, emotionally. But Rick Yarish has the power to say, yeah, but that right there was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I remember the first time he told me that. It was the best thing that ever happened to him, and I got to thinking in my head, man, this guy got way too blown up. Like, I'd never say that if I could get my ears back, my nose, my leg, of course I would. But Rick Yarish blew my mind when he said, nope, if I got it all back, my hands, my leg, he told me I'd have to take back all that hope I've given to other people, and it wouldn't be worth it. It blew my mind when he told me that. And this notion of hope, students, educators, it's not just a bunch of hocus pocus, rainbows and unicorns. This thing called hope is actually very, very scientific. Let me give you the science of hope, students, educators. Let me blow your minds. Let me take you back to the 1950s. About 1952, Harvard graduate, the great Kurt Richter. He does this set of experiments, students, where he gets these big high-sided buckets, he fills them up halfway with water. He takes a hose, puts it in there so the water circulates around. And old Richter takes these rats that were born in the lab, and he drops them in the water. Now don't worry, rats can naturally swim. And they start swimming around that bucket. And old Richter takes a stopwatch, and he starts it. And he finds in about 10 minutes, they start to struggle. Their little heads go under, and they pop up, and they go under, and they pop up. And right about the 15-minute mark, they start sinking to the bottom of the bucket. And Richter and his team allow them to drown to death. And then he takes a second set of rats. He takes the same bucket, the same water level, the same hose. Takes that second set of rats, drops them in, starts to watch. 10 minutes later, they start to struggle. The 15-minute mark, they start sinking to the bottom as well. But this time, Richter plunges his arms into the water. He reaches way to the bottom, and he grabs the little guys. He pulls them out, dries them off, and lets them rest. Only for a few moments. Then he picks them back up and drops them back in the bucket. And he starts to watch them. And he finds in 10 minutes, they're still swimming at the top of the water. They're not struggling. The 15-minute mark, still swimming in the bucket. 30 minutes later, they're still swimming in the bucket. An hour later, still swimming. 2 hours later, still swimming. Three what? Days later. 60 hours they swam. Look it up, educators. It'll blow your minds. 60 hours they swam. Nobody could explain it, but Richter did. You ready for this, students? He believed they were holding on to the possibility that someone was going to save them again. In their tiny little rat brains, they knew what hope felt like. They were waiting for it. The second time, they were waiting for it. How much greater is the human mind? How much greater is the human spirit? That when you give that student in your school or your community that you know is struggling, how much greater is it? I'll tell you how much greater it is, students. That's a 5-year-old little girl that doesn't know she has hope inside of her. That's a 25-year-old man that's hopeless. And the only thing she really did was walk over to him and dump this bucket of hope all over him. But what was she really doing? She was picking him up, and she was drying him off, and she was allowing him to rest from that hopelessness just for a few moments. She probably saved his life. See, that's the same hope that you all have inside of you. You could give it to other people if you choose to. That's the magic that Rick Yarish brought to your school today. See, students, you are the beginning of the solution to this issue. Not me, not Rick, not your teachers, not your parents, you. You carry it inside of you. But as Rick said, it's a choice that you have to make. to become one of these 16th century bullies, one of these sweethearts, and give that hope to those people that are struggling around you. We got 3 buttons down. Perspective, hope, sweethearts, and carriers of hope. It's a choice you can make here today. Brings me to a very serious, a very deep, a very philosophical question. It's a hard question. 3 frogs in a log, one decides to jump in, how many are left? 3 frogs in a log, one decides to jump in, how many are left? Now they told me this was a smart group. I said 3 frogs in a log, one decides to jump in, how many are left on the log?
2.
3 frogs in a log, one decides to jump in, how many are left on the log? Why? 4. What are they doing on that log, bro? Why are there still 3 on the log? Because you just decided. Just like you decided to clean your rooms last week, they're still dirty. Understand this, students, educators, that action changes everything. Nothing will change in this school, nothing will change in this community unless you actually jump into action. You know this one, students. Educators, it was the great Herbert Spencer, the educator. He said the great aim of education is never knowledge, it's action. Now, y'all got a basketball team here? You got anybody that's got some sick bunnies? Like, who can get the highest in the room? The highest. I already used Carmelo. Which guy? Person? I got this one here, or this one over here. Who could get the highest? Has anybody dunked yet? Bro, they're pointing at you, you're pointing away. Where's the guy? This guy or this guy? Which one? This one or this one? So who dunked? You did? All right, come on, bro. For real, you can dunk? All right, come on. I'm about to give this guy the lesson of his life. Should have planned this a little bit better. Good job. What's your name? Kelly? Kelly. That's like some Superman stuff. Kelly. Yeah. All right, Cal. I'm about to give you the lesson of your life right here. On jumping into action. All right, now listen. This here is my sweetheart. There it is. You see that? No smell? Bro, if your mother was here right now, she'd slap you in your head. You don't know what this is. You don't just stick your nose in it. I'm just like, I guess we'll have to do it right here. So I'm gonna have you put 2 fingers in there, and that white spot up there. I'm gonna count to 3. You're gonna run. You're gonna jump. You're gonna show us how high you can get. And then afterwards, I'm gonna make you look silly. So you want to stretch out or nothing? You sure? I don't think nothing out of your pockets. I don't want to excuse you. Hell. You sure you don't want to stretch, man? That's it. Bro, I don't want no excuses. Are you sure? All right, man. So take a little bit of that, put that on there. You just got to mark the wall so we can see it. All right, then I'm going to make you look silly. All right? So, but you got to give me everything you got. You ain't allowed to come down and say, oh, I can do better. You can't say that. You got it? You promise? All right, so you're going to give me everything. You sure? You ain't going to hold back. All right? Because I ain't gonna. I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. You're going to show us what you can get. All right? Wherever you want, bro. This is you. But I'm going to make you look silly when we're done. Whatever, bro. Let's see what you got. You can go. Here we go. On the count of 3. 1, 2. Everything. 1, 2, 3. Go, go, go. Up, up, up. That's pretty good, bro. You were floating there a little bit. I got to ask you a serious question now, bro. Why'd you hide it? What do you mean what I mean? Why'd you hide it? Right to my face. You said you was going to give me everything. I did. Oh, really? Oh. You wasn't lying. So, you don't want to try again. Ah, the guy that says he wouldn't come down and say he could do better. Ah, you want to smell this like that? You like that, don't you? Y'all want to see him try again, don't you? Now listen, bro. Now you see the beginning of this assembly? So you know what I can do in the ring? I'm going to set this down. Don't try and grab and run because I'm fast, too. Now listen, all you got to do is get like a centimeter higher. But you can't because you already did your best. Remember that? Everything you got wasn't going to come down so you can do better. Remember all that? Yeah. I'll just leave that right there, but it won't matter. You can't get no higher. So, just a little. Now listen, bro. Make sure you go to the right or left of it, because I don't want no like controversy. I don't want to get a big argument up here. But it ain't gonna matter if you ain't gonna get no higher. Here's what I've learned, students. Here's what I've learned, educators. My man Cal, he'll never get higher unless you create an environment of hope for him. So check this out. Come on, let's go, let's go! One! Go! Come on! Let's go, 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 go! Oh! Shoot, come on, man, you was holding out. Give him a big hand, man. Bro, I was a little worried there when you jumped that second time, to be honest with you. The money, bro, the money. Where were you at the whole time? I'm not going to attack you. Give him a big hand. Students, educators, pay very close attention. I don't want you to miss this great lesson. I didn't do this for my man Cal to win a few bucks. I didn't do it for him to impress anyone. I truthfully, honestly didn't even do it for him. I did this for the rest of you. Educators, we have 50 million public school students in this country. And when I walk up to any one of them and I say, hey, would you help that kid that's different? Would you help that kid that's brand new to this school? Daddy's in jail, mom's got a drug or alcohol issue people found out about. They're from a different country. Would you help that kid? And most of y'all shake your head and you'll say, yeah, I'll help that kid. You know what I'm going to say to you? Don't lie to me. Don't tell me you're going to give me everything you got. Well, most of you in this room care more about what your friends think, more about what other people are going to say. You ain't going to jump into action. See, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to help people that are different. Y'all will say you'll do it, but you won't. It's a hard thing to go into a cafeteria and sit with a kid that's brand new to this school that stinks. That's almost impossible. Some of y'all say you will, but you won't. But there's one person that always jumps into action. He or she doesn't have a choice. They were born for it. They were created for it. It's button number 5. I want y'all to watch this quick video and see if you can see the hero in this video. Did you see it? Now don't say anything yet. You think the superhero and the kid that were getting bullied were even friends? Did the superhero have to say a single word? What did he do? Dyed his hair. He showed everybody in that environment he didn't care what other people thought. He didn't care what other people were going to say. He jumped into action and he became that kid's hero. I stood right up here at the beginning of this assembly. I said at the end there's going to come a moment when every single one of you from one side to the other, from the back row to the front, I said there would come a moment where you'd say in your head, aha, I know what I have to do. Here's that moment. The great Albert Einstein figured this out well before we ever did, educators. We just didn't pay close enough attention. Here's what he said, students, pay very close attention. He said, this world is a dangerous place to live. Not because of evil people, but because of those who choose to do nothing about it. If Einstein were up here with me today, he would look out over all these faces, and he would say, you know what the problem is? It's you, and it's you, and it's you. It's every one of you in this room that can write down the name on a piece of paper of someone that's not treated the right way in this school or your community. You're the problem. That's a tough thing to say to a young person. They look at you and they say, I didn't even do anything. We know there's two great reasons young people don't jump into action. I'm going to bring this home on these two great reasons, and then I'm going to end this on a real fun note, I promise. Two great reasons. Number one, they feel silly or ridiculous. Y'all didn't realize that's why superheroes wore tights, did you? Like, they don't have to put tights on to run in public, but they do. They're going to look real silly trying to help someone that can't help themselves. Here's the word right here. This thing called vulnerability. Now, when I say making yourself vulnerable, it makes you feel what? I just heard it. What was it? The first thing I hear from young people all the time, educators, he said it makes you feel weak. Now you think about this, students. Some of y'all got a little brother or little sister at home. Some of you educators got a son or a daughter at home, and they say, Mommy, I want to do the talent show. Or maybe they tell you that as your brother or sister, and you say, okay. And you pick out a little song, and the night the talent show comes, and that little girl runs up on that stage, the spotlight hits her. The auditorium is packed with people. We'd all say she's making herself vulnerable. She's opening up herself to attack. That's what the word means. Socially, psychologically, emotionally. Don't even realize that's why Superman ripped that shirt open. People are going to judge him for what he believes, the people he helps. That little girl gets up there on the stage, she might forget her lines. But are you telling me that that little girl is weak? Nothing could be further from the truth. Superheroes live in the world of vulnerability. You have to understand this, students, that when you make yourself vulnerable, you always make yourself stronger. But vulnerability is a real thing for these young people. Heck, teachers, it's a real thing for you. But vulnerability just takes practice, students. But here's the other reason young people don't jump into action. And that's a real reason right there. The other reason, I don't say this to insult you educators, but it's just the truth. We haven't taught them what to do. They just don't have the strategies. I like to tell young people, life is not a talent contest, it's a strategy game. And whoever has the best strategies wins the game of life. They just don't know what to do. We have 50 million public school students in this country, and when I walk up to any student educators and I say, hey, what do you do when you see someone being treated the wrong way? You know what they say? Tell the teacher. They ain't going to do that, right? Because snitches get... They know this one, educators. They ain't going to do that. The best we ever came up with when they were this big. All your parents did this to you, or whoever you lived with, they pushed you out the door in the morning when you were this big, and they said, hey, make sure you stick up for those kids that are different. That's a ridiculous thing to tell a young person. You try that with math sometime, educators. Just explain the math problem one time and say, good luck, I'll see you at the test. Doesn't that sound ridiculous? You think a kid's going to go sit with a kid that stinks because you tell them to one time? They just don't know what to do. They don't have the right strategies. I'll prove it to you, educators. Watch this. Students, all at once, as loud as you can, what do you do when you catch on fire? Educators, you ever met a single person before today that's ever even used that? Isn't that the craziest thing, right? It makes you wonder what else they teach you in school you'll never use, huh? I'm just playing. But you think about this, educators. We never really taught them what to do. You know why stop, drop, work, roll works, educators? Here's the formula. It's simple, it's action-based, and it's life-saving. That's the formula. Simple, action-based, life-saving. I'm going to give you all the simple, action-based, life-saving formula. I call it the stop, drop, and roll of bullying. You should have been taught it when you were this big. You'll never forget it after I give it to you. You know where I got it from? Well, duh. I've been to superhero school. Hey, you let me borrow it, bro. Don't be jealous. I've been to superhero school. And when I went to superhero school, they taught me a couple things. And what they taught me was when I was in school with students, that kid's name, this kid right here, his name was Brian Lindstedt. That was his name. Here's the funny thing, educators. Not one of you have forgotten the first name of the kid when you were in school who wasn't treated the right way. You haven't even forgot the kid's name. Now, they told me in superhero school, the next time you go into phys ed and people are making fun of Brian, they said, you ain't got to talk to those people. They said, all you got to do is use your first superpower from the starter pack of superpowers. That's what they gave me there. I was like, the starter pack? And they're like, yeah, these ones are as easy as the ABC. Now, y'all know the ABC, right? Yeah. So you'll be able to do these superpowers as well. Now they told me, next time I go into phys ed and people are making fun of Brian, they said, all you got to do is use your first superpower from that starter pack. They said, just fly over there. Now check this out. Watch this. They said, the people that are being mean to Brian, you ain't got to talk to them. They said, just do what every superhero does first. You'll recognize it from the movies. Yo, Brian, my locker's stuck. Can you help me? And they said, just take Brian. What was it? First thing they say, away. You know how he do that? That person do that? Because they watch superhero movies. And what's the first thing a hero does when someone's in danger? Fly in and take the person away. It's simple, it's action-based, and it might just save someone's life. Every one of you in this room could use that superpower today. The next time you see someone not being treated the right way, you could walk up to them and be like, yo, bro, could you show me where the principal's at? And just take the person away. You could be like, yo, I got to put all these balls out in the field. Coach asked me to. Could you help me? And take the person away. Every one of you could use that superpower today if you choose to. Here's the next one from the starter pack. I'm almost done here, educators, but I got to end this on a fun note. Check this out. Become Brian's, not even his best friend, just his what? His buddy. Now, some of you are going to think that's not a real superpower, becoming someone's buddy. But I know it is because I've seen it in the movies. Now, y'all think that old Superman would fly up to some cat that's falling from a building? Imagine this guy's falling from the building right here. Can y'all imagine Superman getting right in this cat's face as he's falling and being like this? I'm going to let this one hit the street. No! That's why he's Superman. You think who Superman cares who his daddy is, who his mommy is, what he looks like, what he smells like? Of course not. All them superheroes treat everyone like it's one of their buddies. There's only one reason y'all won't use this superpower. You know why? Because you ain't a superhero. You could treat this kid like he's your buddy. Your friends are going to laugh at you. They're going to make fun of you. That's the hardest superpower in the world right there. I dare some of you to try to use that one later today. When you see this kid being treated the wrong way, try and treat that kid like your buddy. I dare you to. That's almost impossible. Here's the last one right here. I've seen all them superhero movies, and here's what I've learned. This right here, educators, is why they should be part of the curriculum. That'd be pretty dope, huh? Them superhero movies are part of the curriculum. Now check this out. Here's what I've learned by watching them. Every one of them superheroes confronts the situation. You know how they do it? With their own superpower. Now, a lot of young people say, I don't have any superpowers. That's not true. You know that kid that talks too much? That's probably their superpower. Where's he at? Right there. You know that kid that's been distracting educators? That's definitely their superpower. And I learned this from watching the movies. Because all them superheroes are ruining things with their powers when they first start to use them. You know what I mean? Like Hulk is smashing everything and Cyclops is burning everything up. See, these young people, educators, they already got their own superpowers, and you know exactly what they are. Because most of them are ruining things with their powers when they try and use them. See, it's your job, educators, to teach these young people how to use their individual superpowers for good and for truth and for justice. That's your job. Don't try and change them, educators. It's what makes them an individual. Some superpowers don't work, so once in a while you've got to do what old Superman did at that one movie, which was call another superhero. Remember when he had to call Batman at the end of that one movie? So you might have to call another superhero if what you're doing isn't working. And there's a lot of them in this room, students. They're called educators. And they're like real-life superheroes to me, especially the great work they've done the last couple years. But it might even be a friend of yours. There's the starter pack right there. One last quick piece of this puzzle. We know these young people, educators, will jump into action less than 10% of the time and intervene when someone's not being treated the right way. Most studies say it's about 4% of the time, which means you students, you really don't intervene when someone's being treated the wrong way. But there's a magic window, and I got this from the movie as well. It's called the moment. You know what I mean when the superhero owns the moment in the movie? It lasts 10 seconds, just like my stick, my friend, just like my stick. 10 seconds. Educators, students, if young people can be taught and can practice jumping into action within the first 10 seconds, the science is very clear. They can be successful almost 60% of the time. If you do it within the first 10 seconds, use those superpowers of your own, and I promise you, students, if you do, you will become someone's hero. I need just a couple quick volunteers to end this thing. Man, we got slim pickings here. Jeez. All right, I'll take her because she was getting pointed at. Down back there, yeah, her, yeah, come on up here, one. All right, I'll get that guy over there. Take me one of them. Come on, bro, let's go. And, come on, today, sister, let's go. Find the right one. Yeah, I'm looking for a specific one. Man. That's it? We'll just stay down here. Oh, you want to go up there? All right, well, I need one more. Where, sister, let's go. Hey, what are you doing? Let's go. Shoot. Sister Albert? Greg? All right, come on. Come on over here. What's your name? Haley? The H? Nice to meet you. What's your name? What is it? Hi, over here. What's your name? I don't care. Just stand there. All right, now quiet a second. Just stand right there. Now listen. Say your name again. Kai? Kai. Now listen, I said there's two reasons young people don't jump into action. Remember the first one? Remember? Starts with a V. Vulnerability. Right? Were you paying attention or what? A little. At least you're honest with me. Now listen, I'm going to get that one out of the way here quick. You know what this is, Kai? Excuse me? Huh? Put that baby on there, Kai. Can you see without them glasses? Yes or no? No. Perfect. Come on. Just use the force. Now listen, Kai. I got to bring this home. Yeah, I'm going to make him go first. Anyway, Kai, today, bro. Now listen, Kai. Now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to bully this guy the wrong way. All right? Now listen, my man. When you get knocked out, you don't even feel it. You just go down hard. But here's the only rule. You're not... Dick, too. I'm going to have to hit this one extra hard. Now listen. Here's the only rule. You're not allowed to say anything. All right, so show them your happy face. Sad. Sad. Dude, happy. Sad. Come on, bro. That was like you have to go to the bathroom. Just don't say anything. Now, Kai. Now, you got to jump into action within how many seconds? Just listen to her. 10. Now, listen. You can... No, I'm going to put it on. Now, listen. I'm going to go over there and bully this guy the wrong way. You got to get over there within 10 seconds. You could A, take him away. B, become his buddy. No kissing up here, please. I don't know what you do with your friends. Whatever, man. I'm not here to judge. Or you could confront the situation your own way. You know who the situation is? You? Me. You just can't hit me, all right? Won't end nice for either one of us. You'll go out like this, and I'll go out like this. All right. You can just stand over there. You can just wait. We'll let you go a second. All right, quiet. Now, Kai, this is my bully hat. You get it? It's like a bad dad joke, I know. Now, Kai, did you see The Incredibles, the movie? Now, that's my jam, and I love that old Mr. Incredible, but my favorite part is when he lands on the big island to fight the robot. You remember what he said? He said, it's, showtime. Yo, bro, what I tell you about wearing that stupid sweatshirt? I said, next time you did, you were going to have a problem. You think that's funny? You ain't going to think that's funny when I knock your teeth out. There's nothing funny. Bro, did you just touch me? Bro, I'm chilling out. You chill out. What do you mean back up? I do what I want this school. Yeah, I do. What you going to do? Yeah, we got to have a problem. It's going to be with you. Bro, shut up. I told you not. Bro! What you mean watch my mouth? No, you stay back there. You ain't chilling nowhere, bro. You're going to be chilling on the floor when I put you on the floor. Bro, I'm telling you, bro, when I get back, you better be gone. Done. Come here. Give my man Kai a big hand. Educators, pay close attention. For most of you in this room, you just watched your first ever Bull League drill. We do fire drills with young people all the time to teach them life-saving skills. Can you imagine if we raised a generation of young people to practice this? Now, my man Kai, he didn't need no help. And he came in there, just let me know that what I was doing wasn't right. And when I pointed out, he put my hand down. Most people don't have that kind of courage, but he's probably seen me do this before. He knows I was just a bunch of hot air. And he knew if he just stuck his ground, he knew I was going to stop and go away. My man Kai did a great job. Good man. Now you go over here for moral support. You just help her out. I like this guy. You ready, sister? All right, last one. I'm going to say one quick thing after this, educators, and we'll get them out of here. But this one right here, educators, is for you. Every one of you teachers, adults in this room will recognize this one, so you pay real close attention. I'm going to do this one differently. Put your head down. All right, now you got to listen up real carefully. All right, quiet in the set here, quiet in the set. And old Mr. Incredible said, it's... Oh, come on, it's... Showtime! Yo, what's up, dude? How you doing? You freak. Hey, best friend, how are you? Now, you're my best friend. Hello, you've been my best friend since second grade. Now, listen, who cares? Nobody likes him. You've been my best friend since second grade. He's a weirdo. Look at him. Nobody likes him. You're my best friend. You're supposed to be on my side. Yeah. Gross. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. Oh. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Cut. Come back over. Educators, pay very close attention. You know exactly what happened right here when you were this young person's age and your friends laughed at people, said things, did things. You know what you did? You did nothing. You know how I know that? Because when I was this young person's age, I didn't either. That's the hardest part in the world right there. It's when your best friends, your team, your pack looks at someone, laughs at someone, does something to them. It's almost impossible to say something to them. This one did a great job here. Y'all missed something small that happened. I gave this guy one rule, which was what? Don't talk. I would tell you that she gave him the courage and confidence to break that rule. Because the rule is, he's just supposed to take it. She did a great job. Give her a big hand. Come on, bro. Wasn't that scary?